Hi, this is Stephen from Confessions of a Traitor, and this is the KingdomCore podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the KingdomCore podcast. This is Sean speaking. I've got Chris here with me.
Hello.
And we just got done filming a conversation with Stephen MacConville, right? That was his name. Stephen MacConville, the screamer and vocalist of the newest band to Face Down Records called Confessions of a Traitor. Chris, what did we talk about with him?
We talked a little bit about jamming out at a cafe early morning. That's like the best story ever.
Is, yeah.
Just kind of the backstory of signing to Face Down and the conversations with them, a little bit of the history of the band, but a lot of what you guys can expect for the upcoming album, Punishing Myself Before God Does, which comes out mid-September. So
September
stay on
16th.
the lookout for that. Yeah, September 16th.
Yes.
It's so good. There's a few singles you can go watch and listen to. They have music videos for. It's a super great album, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Definitely. Yeah, we talked about the album things, the album artwork, and just what the lyrics on the record are about, what Steven's writing style is like. Yeah, it was a really, really, really fun episode. This album is amazing. Chris and I have had the honor and privilege of listening to it, and we're just so excited for you guys all to hear it right here in a couple months. But until then, please enjoy this interview, and thank you guys for listening.
To be fair, I stumbled across your reaction video for Peacekeeper, and I was like, this guy, he's so kind. Such a nice guy.
Chris loves it when the artists say that they've watched his reactions.
Oh, but I genuinely commented in the comments. I really enjoyed it. I think your the actual captions you use of your face they crack me up every time you come on.
You got to get the clickbait reaction.
I need to make some new ones. I kind of have gotten, as the recent season, I've been so busy that whenever I do make them, I'm like, I rush the thumbnail, so I literally have like the same like 4 on repeat right now.
Also, it's
like, which one suits it the best?
Yeah, exactly.
But I need to make some more. So I used to do it where it was like every single video was a different one, but
I can imagine it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Stephen. It's awesome to have you. Do you want to introduce yourself and what band are you from? What do you do in the band?
And where you're from?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I think they'll be able to tell from the distinctly posh British accent. So, firstly, thank you for having me on board. So, I'm Stephen. I'm the singer from Confessions of a Traitor. And surprise, surprise, I live in merry old London, England. So, yeah, hence the cringeworthy Hugh Grant style accent. I think somebody commented on one of our videos. It was literally today after we released the song Forever Hollow yesterday. They said something like Confessions of a Traitor, hold my teacup, and I was like, oh my god, it's begun. Like the British banter has begun.
Raise the finger, the pinky.
Yeah. I'm actually drinking tea as well. I couldn't be any more cliche right now. I've just realised that. I said to my partner, I was like, I'm just gonna make a tea. Oh god, settle in for the podcast, and I'll make a quick tea. Like the least hardcore of hardcore vocalists you'll ever meet.
Oh, that's great. What are you drinking? Is that a London Fog? Is that Earl Grey?
It's actually a Twinings Digest tea, because it really helps the food settle into the stomach. Because here it's like 8:30 in the evening, so we've just had dinner, and I'm kind of like settling in for the evening. Going to go to bed soon, because that's what the cool life of a hardcore singer does, bed at 9:30 in the evening.
Yeah, exactly.
And then tomorrow morning you're gonna get up and you guys are gonna go rock out at Denny's.
No,
yes,
100%. I'm glad you've seen that video.
Yes, let's talk about that video for those that haven't seen it. Can you tell us about that? Fill in the backstory.
Okay, so about 2019. January, we were on tour with. Actually, I'm wearing their hat right now. Crazy Town. Do you know Crazy Town? You'll
No, I haven't heard of them.
you'll type in Crazy Town Butterfly, and you will hear it, and you'll be like, "Oh my god, I know that song instantly." It's like early new metal classic, and we were in Romania, and we had just played the Hard Rock Cafe in Bucharest. So big prestigious venue, so we were super excited, and then we're like, oh, we've got a really long drive ahead of us the next day, so I think something like 12 or 13 hours we had to drive. So we jumped in the van, and I was like, I tell you what, I'll break the back of it tonight and I'll just start driving. So I ended up putting a storybook on, putting my headphones in and jumping in the front of the van and just kind of driving. Ended up getting to this town called Lassie, I believe it's pronounced Lassie, about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we piled into this cafe, and we were all dying, or I was like so sleep deprived, and I'm there kind of like with a coffee, like an espresso, just going, I've still got like 2 hours of driving left. And the promoter from the night before walks in, and he's like, "Confessions, what are you doing here?" And we were like, trying not to die. That's what we're doing right now. And he's like, "Do you want to play a show?" And I was like, "Well, we're playing a show tonight." And this is a terrible Romanian accent, by the way, so I'm butchering it for anyone who is Romanian, so I apologize. And we're like, "We're playing one tonight." And he's like, "No, now." I was like, "It's 8 o'clock in the morning." He was like, "Best time for a metal show." So we pulled out the cabs, because we had the entire backline in the back of the van. So we pulled out the cabs, set it up, sound checked, and then we just went, I reckon we're going to get 3 or 4 songs in and everyone's just going to kick us out and leave. Next thing you know, 20, 30 people pile into the front, and we're just absolutely going ham in this rest. Commuters in their suits. It was a Monday morning. People in their suits are there, like looking up as we're sat, like just riffing out, and they're like, "What is going on?" I'm climbing the furniture. This was like a posh place as well. I'm climbing the furniture. Next thing you know, I'm looking over. Shifty from Crazy Town's eating an omelette, and I was like, "I've not eaten hot food for 4 days. I'm gonna have me some of that omelette." And he feeds me mid line, and I was like, "Right, pull away, eat." Back, and I'll turn around. I'm like, that was some good omelette, man. That's some good omelette. And then I think as the video sort of looks around, everyone's kind of like head banging away, and the camera pans to this guy,
one old guy in the background.
And he's just like,
yes.
"You have ruined my breakfast." To be fair, though, he actually came up to me and asked for a picture afterwards. Obviously, I had no idea who we were, but there's a picture of me and him floating around the internet somewhere. But yeah, it honestly, and it was like it just so happened that they filmed that exact bit, and then we just thought, oh, this is a hilarious video, and I remember posting it on my Instagram like a couple of weeks after we got back, and then this website called Unilad got a hold of it, and it just blew up. And like 2.5 million views later, and people when back in 2019 were showing up to our shows with food and trying to feed me while I was singing.
That's amazing.
So there were pancakes and omelettes being handed to me, and I was like, I'm gonna get so fat. So that's the story of the breakfast of breakdowns. It's been called now.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not the weirdest venue we've played either. So
yeah. Tell us about the weirdest venue.
So we were on tour with. Do you know Upon a Burning Body?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Texas. So we were on a tour with them in Europe, and we were playing this town called Lyon. Which is a massive big river down the middle of it. The River Lyon, surprisingly enough. I said River Lyon? Geography is going to escape me now. And we pulled up to where the venue should have been, and we're looking at the side of the road, and I was like, these are just houses. And then we see UABB driving down the bank at rapid pace towards this boat. And I was like, are we playing a boat? And then, next thing you know, we're piling all this gear into the boat, and we're kind of looking at it, and it was a fairly sturdy boat, and the portholes were kind of like at eye level here. And I'm looking out, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. 200-300 kids later, we're jumping. The boat is going under the portholes, and I'm like, I think we're gonna drown. Like, I genuinely had like baby panics. I was like, I think we're gonna drown. I think the boat's gonna go under because the whole room was pumping. We had our bass player Tony had a really tall bass stack for a while, and every time I looked around and it was jumping, it was just going. It was leering to one side. I was like, oh, it was just yeah. So yeah, a boat in the middle of France was probably the most random venue aside from the cafe.
That's hilarious.
Man.
So yeah,
that is so crazy. Some of the places you played.
Yeah,
only in Europe, I feel like.
I don't know. I just think we're such a plug-in play band that somebody will go, oh yeah, do you want to play now? And we're like, yeah, all right, let's give it a go.
I love that.
Can't be too bad.
It sounds like I've never been, but it sounds like you guys would have been the perfect band for like Cornerstone doing like the generator stages. You guys just like, oh yeah, we'll play out the back of this pickup truck or something.
Isn't it like I watched videos of the Devil Wears Prada? Was it Cornerstone or was it Warped Tour?
I think,
yeah. And they're just playing in a parking lot, and I was like, that is 100% us. Like we would turn up, run rings, and then be like, right, we'll just follow it. We'll just go again. So
or it's like that I don't know if you've seen that video of the Chariot. They got kicked out of a venue for like being too crazy, and some dude who was at that show was like, let's go play at my house. And so he brought everyone into his house, and they were playing on the roof and jumping in the pool. It was so cool.
Oh, I love those guys. I've watched I think he's in another band called the 68, is it?
68,
yeah. So I watched them, and it's just the two of them, it's the drummer and the guitar. Energy, and the drummer's so trashing his kit.
He's insane.
Yeah, really great bands. Like chaos. Like there's no structure to the songs, and I'm like, oh, like it really stresses me out. But they're incredible live. So unfortunately I've never seen the Chariot live, but I'd love to. But
yeah, no, it would be so cool to see them again. I actually had the pleasure of seeing 68 in Vancouver, and it was. It was mind blowing just to watch them, like just how two guys are like making that, like, and just watching them perform, and they're like performing in suits or something.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm very
just like, how do they just bring that one suit on tour? Yeah. Do they have a few different suits? Like,
I guarantee you they do. Because do you remember Upon a Burning Body used to wear suits?
Yeah. Did they?
Yeah, they used to. Yeah, and they were fully suited up for years. I remember. Like talking to them afterwards, like we were touring through Europe in the height of summer, and it was stinking. Like every time they came off, these like grey suits. They were like black by the end of it because they were so drenched in sweat. And then you see them hanging off the edge of the van, like in the sunlight, and they're like, "Gonna be wearing you tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like
that's disgusting.
I know. And then it was like where they got like a break to like wash their gear. That was like there was no separation of colors or anything. It was just jam it all in. It doesn't matter. Let's just go for it. But yeah, so
I feel like bands that do the whole suit thing, they need to buy go to a thrift shop or something and buy like 5 of like almost the identical suit, and then they get a week out of it.
But I couldn't imagine wearing it back to back on the shows.
My Monday suit, my Tuesday suit.
Yeah. Yeah, just the rotation. Like that was a sweaty gig. I'll leave that one for another week. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, I guess like that on tour though. Like, especially when you're going around and around, and you're like, right, it must be like that for American bands because it's such a big country that they must just jump in the van and just go, and then we're like, oh, I haven't had a chance to change. I'm just gonna go, like jump on stage in the same stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely
I don't think I'm
way.
cut out for the touring life.
Yeah, I got some friends who tour in bands, and then like I'll meet them at the Southern California date, and I'm like, "So when's the last time you showered?" And they'll be like, "I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago."
I can't deal with people's feet. It's the smell. It's when the shoes come off in the van, and you're like,
"Oh no."
Oh God! Oh,
crack a window.
Yeah. Yeah, the 5 boys in a van is it's not a pleasant area, but you know we luckily across Europe there are showers in truck stops, so we tend to get as many as we can. Yeah, but Sometimes, sometimes you don't.
Do you guys have any plans for any US touring for the new album coming out?
So, I mean, let's put it like this: signing to Face Down Records in the States is obviously on the cards. It's just how to get over.
That's fair.
Extraordinarily expensive for us to get visas, and I think it's roughly about £1,500 to £2,000 per person. It was the last estimation we were given
just to get access. Not even actually
That's
make the
crazy.
trip.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's crazy.
It's because you come in and you're effectively taking money out of the economy, so they'll charge you more for the visa, and you're not even guaranteed. So, let's put it like this: it's on the cards. Being on an American label, being a British band, it makes sense for us to get out there. It's more down to the logistics rather than if it's going to happen. So it will happen.
Okay.
But we're just trying to sort out some bits and bobs that I think for a lot of us, just getting back out on the road in general will be a great thing, because COVID having shut pretty much everything down, and it's still, the touring scene is not quite back up to full spec yet. Like, there's a lot of bigger bands that are coming in, but the kind of mid-tier bands that would normally kind of, jump on the back of some of those larger tours aren't getting a look in, because everyone's like, we need to tour because we need to make money. So yeah, it's very up and down at the moment, and obviously there's waves of COVID. People are still getting sick, and then singers are going off getting sick and they're unable to sing. So yeah, it's so rough at the moment. It's very difficult to kind of predict what's going to happen, but long and short, yeah, we will. And hopefully I'll get to meet you guys face to face one time.
That'd be amazing.
Well, I was going to say, if you guys are willing to fork over probably another £1,000 each to come to Canada, if that's an extended thing.
I tell you what, Canada,
Chris, quit making everything about you.
Yeah. Don't worry about the Americans. Come up to Canada. You were in Canada, are you?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, the only place anybody would ever play near me is Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm on the island, Vancouver Island.
You are really remote.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Except I had the chance. I blew it. I should have gone and seen Spirit Box before they blew up, because they're actually from Victoria, which is on my island. So I'm like, I should have. I should have gone. Yeah. They live here, and so I'm like, I could have seen them 2 years ago when nobody knew who they were. I've known about them since it started because of the local scene here, but. Yeah.
Wow, that's a bit of a claim to fame, isn't it? The island. How many people live on the island?
At least 1 million.
Oh, okay, it's pretty big. I thought you were going to say something like 400.
It's a big island, yeah.
Okay,
we have 864,900 as of 2021. So
wow, okay. Not that remote then. It's a fairly big place.
No, except because of you have to take a ferry from Vancouver to get here.
Yeah.
So any bands traveling, usually bands don't come over unless they're just a local band from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Unleash the Archers. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're from Vancouver.
Oh,
and
are
they've played my town, downtown, tiny little club. I was outside walking by because I was with some friends, and I'm like, oh, I wish we could be in that show right now. But
they're a good band.
Yeah,
I don't listen to a ton of power metal, but they're great.
One of the better in that genre, I think.
Power metal
these days.
Yeah.
It's the perfect festival music. When you're at a big old festival, and then they come on and you're like, yeah, and you're like, yes.
It is on my bucket list to go to one of those Swedish power metal festivals, or the ones in Germany. Yeah, Wacken, those. I want to go to one of those before I die so badly.
They are mad. Absolutely. We played the biggest festival in Ukraine. I think it was in 2019. The passion, the mix of music is crazy, and they are just there. The festival itself is called Zakid Fest, and it's in a forest, but everyone camps in the forest, And
Okay.
That's so cool.
yeah, and the festival itself is surrounded. The festival arena is surrounded by lakes, so you've got I think four or five stages. The main stage being at the far end, and the smaller stage being at one end. And there are people as you're playing on like floats in the water, like moshing, and you're like
That
looking
would
at the
be
people
so
in front of
sick.
you on the ground, and then you're looking at the people and they're just going, yeah. You're like, yeah, don't drown, stay alive.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
told you again, weird venue.
That's really cool.
That sounds like one of like the better weird ones to
Oh
be at.
yeah,
That does.
I mean, I
yeah.
guess the cafe though sounds good. I mean, you get free food while you're eating.
I mean,
while you're
free food. I got a mouthful of omelette. If that's what you call free
Yeah.
food, then yeah, sure.
In a touring band, that is.
Yeah,
a meal,
that was a hot meal. That's what it was advertised
Yeah.
as, a hot meal.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So let's talk about you guys recently signing to Face Down. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask first off, are you guys the first British band to be signed by Face Down?
I think so, actually. And it's been a question that cropped up like kind of early into conversations with Face Down. And we're looking through the roster, and well, first off, when we started the conversations, we were like, "Oh, that's Face Down. That's Face Down Records." The amount of bands that I idolize on that label, and I was like, "If this comes through, it's like dream." So and yeah, and kind of looking at them, I was like, I think we're the first British band to be on them. I'll clarify that with Jason, but yeah, I think we might be, and I think it's you look at the bands on there at the moment, they're all American, and it's like it's a great to be a part of such a rich, talented roster of bands that are all in one area. We feel like a bit of an exception. Being a British band is really, really cool, and being on an American label. So yeah, it's such a privilege to be on a record label that I've listened to for bands for years. Like sort of like a band that we love in general is a band called Gideon, and their first 3 releases from Face Down Records are like some of our favorites. And like there's a lot of in jokes about like us with them, like just in general, because we just idolize them as a band. I think they're absolutely phenomenal. And then you look at the current lineup as well, like War of Ages, heavily got into Bloodlines recently. I think their EP is fantastic.
So good.
Meadows, we've been having chats with the boys in Meadows. It was funny when we signed, we did the announcement, and when Peacekeeper came out, Saving Grace slid into our DMs on Instagram, and I'm chatting. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I've been listening to this band for years, and I'm just there, like, "All right, mate, like you're really cool." And I'm obviously like I'm very stoic,
and they're close to you guys, right?
I
mean, relatively.
They're in they're actually closer to you. They're in New Zealand.
That's actually that's true. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, split the difference. It's fine. They're exactly the opposite side of the world to us.
Yeah.
But I used to live in New Zealand, so I do know the area.
You guys all sound the same, though, right?
Yeah. Well, why not? Yeah, sure. I tell you, you put me and Saving Grace in a room together, and you will see the difference. So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, we have been so welcomed in by this label. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Like, War of Ages posted about us signing to Face Down, and I was like, oh, like these guys are a huge influence on us. So it's like, yeah, it's really humbling to be perfectly honest. I feel incredibly privileged to be on such a prestigious label, and such an influential label in my eyes.
That's awesome.
That's
how did
so
that
good.
how did that whole process happen? Could you take us through that?
Yeah, so it actually started in 2019 before we released our first album, Guided.
Okay.
And our manager at the time was sort of doing some communication out and about, label shopping, and I think Jason emailed us directly and said, "Look, I've been contacted by your manager, I really love the record. I just want to kind of understand a bit more about the lyrics behind it, and what you guys are all about. And was kind of like fishing for the, are you a faith-based band, and are you? And I was like, well, yeah, like that's this is what I am. I am a very, very Christian man. Like, and he was like, right, fine, okay, I can read that in the lyrics. And I just wanted to kind of fully understand that. And I was like, oh, this is a really interesting take, because nobody ever really looks that deeply into the lyrics, and they kind of take it for kind of face value, because it's not like out and out, worship music, if that's what you want to call it. And like, but it tends to be a bit more subtle, and there's lots of hints there. And I think that kind of initial conversation was had, but where we'd basically recorded this album the year before, we'd been sat on it for a long time, and we were like, we want to get this out, we just want to get something out, because we just haven't really, we've got all this material and our timelines didn't align, basically. So we were like, right, we're going to put this out, we're going to self-release it, put it out to the world. And it started to gain a fair bit of traction. Like, we had Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King on one of the tracks.
Oh yeah. That was Myra.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
First track I heard from you guys.
Yeah.
I remember being hooked after that.
Yeah, and I think that's how we initially kind of got talking a little while ago. It was off that track. Because I remember Ryan and I have been talking through Heart Support, because I've been doing a bit of work with the guys over at Heart Support.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so I was like, would you want to feature on the record? He was like, I'd absolutely love to. And I was like, oh, amazing. And then he posted about it, and then loads of people in America were like, oh my God, who's this band in England? Like, and so that kind of shifted us into the kind of, I say, the Christian scene over in America a bit more. And we kind of then, when COVID hit, we had all these plans to tour in 2020. We were going back out to Europe. We'd had a load of festivals booked, and obviously it then stopped. But on top of that, I caught COVID really badly. I've had it 3 times, and the second time I had it, I ended up in the back of an ambulance on a ventilator, because I couldn't.
Oh no!
Yeah, I couldn't breathe. And I've suffered with some neurological issues off the back of their 3rd round. So I was suffering seizures, and developed a little bit of epilepsy, and that has now disappeared under like a lot of investigation. But long and short, because I got so sick, and everything was locked down, I just channeled this, just started to write a lot. And I said to the boys, right, I think this is going to be a lot longer. And my job is, I work for a private medical company doing rehabilitation into chronic illness for people who are really, really sick. And we were getting fed information directly from our National Health Service to say, we're staying in lockdown for a long time. So I said to the guys, let's write an EP. Let's just write, and see what comes out of it. And we wrote this fun little EP called Press Start to Play, which is literally what got us through lockdown, because me, Jacob, and a couple of boys in another band played Halo, Master Chief Collection,
and BioShock.
Yeah, all the way through. We did all 5 games from start to finish. In party chat, because we were all off work. Everyone was at home, and then I was like, oh, there's some really interesting quotes in Halo, and I was like, I'm just going to start writing these down. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun to just write a song about Halo? And I remember Jack, our guitarist, sent through a load of demos, and I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this one. I just started writing to it, and I've got my own little setup in my room, and so recorded some vocals over the top, and I sent it to the guys, and they were like, oh, this is really good. This is really, really good. And I was like, yeah, cool. So we started, and I was like, I didn't tell them it was about games, because I didn't think they would buy into it, because no one else is a massive gamer apart from me. And I was like, yeah, cool. All right, let's go about it like this. And then,
what do you play on?
What do I play on? I play on Xbox.
Yes, dude. We need to add.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be a podcast anymore. This is going to be gaming. We'll be Twitch streaming.
Let's go play Halo, man.
Don't worry about this now. Yeah. And everyone's going to be like,
come watch us on Twitch.
Yeah.
Team Slayer. Oh, yeah. So
everybody's always PlayStation. I'm like, where are all the Xbox?
Yeah, I'm Xbox boy. Like the Master Chief, like, you've got to know if that's Halo. So and long and short, and that was kind of where we funneled our energies during lockdown, in between various people getting quite sick and so on and so forth. But what ended up happening is we recorded it all in my living room, and we were just. We had the police called on us because I was screaming into the and I live in a block of flats, and I'm there going, and they're going, we've just had a call because we think you're abusing your partner, and I was like, I don't have a partner, but there's a big burly guy in here who plays guitar in my band, and the police walked in, and there's me and Jacob standing at like 6'10", and they went. I saw the microphones and they were like, okay, yeah, right, yeah, you're solid, lads. And we're like, cool. Like, just don't do it past 11 o'clock. Yeah. So, yeah, then we basically used it as a stopgap. And we were like, we want to stay relevant. We've just released the album, not going to get to tour the album. And we put out these songs probably every 2 months just to be like, oh, here's another one. Here's another one. And in the background, wrote 36 songs. Yeah, because nothing.
You got 2 more albums
songs,
ready,
right? Or like you have 36
full songs. Demos.
2 albums.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then what we did is when the restrictions were lifted or started to lift, we rented a property in Norfolk near the coast and set up for about 10 days. Took all our recording equipment. Recorded all the guitars, all the bass, demoed out the drums on MIDI, and started writing some of the vocal parts in this cabin. Sent the guitars off to get mixed, and then booked in the vocal recording, and that was all done before the final track of the EP was even out. So we'd actually had the album pretty much kind of good to go before it was out. And then we were kind of working with our manager to say, right, we want to get good mix and master. We want to get good vocal production. And we started working with this guy called Justin to do the vocals. And then we got confirmation that Andrew Wade was going to mix and master the record, and it just started to ramp up. And
Andrew is so good, by the way.
Oh,
he did such an amazing job with your guys' record.
Thank you so much. Like when we got it back, we were all like, oh. It just sounds. Like he's just worked magic on it. Like it just gives such a depth to it, and like knowing that he's just put out Wage War's most recent album and a Day to Remember, and you're like you're kind of rubbing shoulders with the big boys there, and it was like really excited to work with them. And we did the vocals for Peacekeeper and Punishing Myself Before God Does, and Jason basically from Facedown had said, keep in contact. So our manager shot him over the 2 demos, and he signed us there and then off the 2 demo tracks of Peacekeeper and Punishing. And
I mean,
then,
hey, I would have.
Those
songs are great.
Yeah, I mean, we were really excited about it, and he was like, "Oh, when's the rest of the album coming?" And then it was like about a month later, we'd finished all the vocals on it, sent it over, and it was like, oh, it's got better. Like those 2 tracks were great, but it's kind of lifted up from there. So and it was a very swift process. Like we only got the mixes back in March, the final mixes, and then it was like, right, let's go, let's start releasing material. So the next Peacekeeper came out in April. Punishing came out last month, and Forever Hollow came out Friday. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, actually, to be fair.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun.
Cool. If you needed any validation, you guys are like a real good band.
True.
You got the mix for Andrew Wade. You're signed to Facedown with War of Ages and all the other amazing bands. You guys are there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I can't even begin to tell you guys how humbled we are by the response that everyone on Face Down has had. The bands on there have reached out to us and, been promoting our stuff and just welcoming us into it. You don't see that anywhere else. It is genuinely
the Face Down family.
Yeah, it's genuinely a family. And I thought people were taking the mick when they first said it. It was like, oh, no labels like this. No, they are, and it is completely unique. So, yeah, it's been an unbelievable experience, and to kind of look at the bands that are on there at the moment that I'm now big fans of, and I'm like, I'm friends with these guys on Facebook. It's really cool. So, yeah, it's been real fun, real fun so far.
That's great. We'll get into the album in a minute. I just want to say this to you and for those listening. Chris and I have heard the record. We got that sent to us before this.
Like 4 times at this point.
Yeah, I think I've listened to it 3 times. And I have been bored by, I'm going to go ahead and say 85% of modern metalcore lately. This record definitely was extremely refreshing for me. It was great. It didn't get boring at any point. It was exciting, always kept me guessing, had just like really unique riffs, fun vocal parts, awesome breakdowns out of nowhere. Like, it's just overall a fun, good summer metalcore record. And so I'm really excited for people to hear that.
Oh, amazing.
Sean, just judging by what Sean just said, he likes it more than Fit for a King right now.
You're not supposed to say that.
We're trying to get Ryan Kirby on here. Oh yeah, I featured on that band's record once, and they'd be like, "Oh no,
we might cut that part."
Yeah. It's honesty, fellas. I really enjoyed Reaper. I listened to Reaper the other day, and I was like, "This is a heavy song, heavy song."
The breakdowns,
like, it's heavy.
It's good. It. But no, honestly, I can't thank you enough. Do any of the tracks kind of stand out as like to you?
Yes. For me, it was here. I'm horrible with track names. Let me find it. A Place Where You're
in my old age.
Track 8.
I can never remember.
Yeah, okay.
That song stood out to me so much. I'm not going to ruin it for people who haven't heard it yet, but you know exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah. If you like breakdowns, that's the song with breakdowns in it.
It's so good. No. Could you talk about the album themes and just the title, Punishing Myself Before God Does, what you wanted to convey on this record?
Yeah, so the album itself is very much a reflection of the period of time that we've just been through. It's very much a lot of self-commentary and self-critique. I think, the album title itself is very evocative. And it's very. I remember when I wrote that, and I was like, it was obviously it's the line on the breakdown. I'll punish myself before God does. That whole build up. That song in general is about guilt and making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. Because, but it's said in such a visceral way that I know that I will be forgiven. For my sins, I will be forgiven. However, if I continue to make those mistakes, knowing that I will be forgiven, then am I really a good person? Like, if you don't learn and grow from it, then you must hold on to the things that you've done wrong and grow from it. And that's where it was just like, okay, before I get punished, I'm going to make sure that I do it myself and I never ever forget the mistakes that I've made. And I think that was some of the initial feelings that were coming out at the time when we were going through the period of lockdowns. There was a lot of like guilt, there was a lot of shame. We're locked in our houses. We were unable to do anything. I just felt horribly guilty. Friends and a lot of friends and relationships broke down during that period of time for a lot of the members of the bands because it was such trying times, and each song has a direct reflection on aspects of the band at that time. And I think when you write that as a song title and you think punishing myself before God does, you're like, there's no way that this record cannot be named that. You want to make a statement and you want to go forward and you say, right, okay, we're here and we're here to stay. Peacekeeper, is more of an uplifting song. It's that battle. It's a bit of a continuation on from that idea of punish yourself before God does. It's that, right, you've got battles, you've got your personal battles. It's how can you rise up from them, whatever you're coming up against and whatever you fear and whatever's going on at the time, you can grow from it. And I think the line that will always sticks with me is I've got a really busy head sometimes, and when I'll overthink things and I'll critique myself really, really heavily because I know I can do better. Is I pray for silence, but I've got a throat full of fire and a head full of violence, and it goes straight into the breakdown. And I remember writing that at a particularly bad time when I had COVID, because my head was all over the place, but I just wanted to scream about it. And it was just a really rocky time for a lot of us. And then there's some other tracks on there. I think you look at Forever Hollow, which has just come out, and To Care for Those Who Care for Us is all about loss, because unfortunately during this time we have lost a good number of people along the way, and there's strangely 4 of the band members, myself included, have lost somebody through the battle of dementia through that time. So To Care for Those Who Care for Us is directly about my uncle who died in the lockdowns because of his battle with dementia, and then 3 of the other guys have lost family members along the way during that writing process. So it's a very personal track for us in that kind of biome, I guess, and that cascades into Forever Hollow as well. And it's a very all I can say about the record is read the lyrics, look at it when it comes out, obviously. It's very personal for all of us. Like, as much as I am the primary lyric writer, I draw in absolutely everything that's going on with everyone. It's not a direct reflection of how I feel at the point in time, but we're very close as a band. It's strangely close, actually, and we get on super, super well, and we share everything with each other. So it's very much like, some of them will be talking and I'll be just typing away of just things that they've said, and then it will come out later on. And we'll be releasing a single in a few weeks, I want to say, and
another music video.
There's gonna be a few. There's a couple coming out. Let's put it like this. I don't want to spoil it.
I love how much promo this album is getting.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome,
we want to. We wanted to make a bit of a statement on, English band. Let's do it, and let's kind of kick off in the right way. So, let's put out.
There's other bands other than Architects.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Architects, but you're right. Yeah, let's get some material out. But the track Lovecraft, sits very.
That was one of my favorites.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. I'm really excited to release that at some point. And when the album comes out, and that has a particular weight on some of the members of the band, and that's a reflection on where they were at that point in time. So it's very personal, and it's a very introspective look on the emotions that were going on through a really rocky time. There was so much coming out. Bands were, making very big statements about politics, and I was like, do you know what? It's not. I can't. Just make it. I resonate much more with personal material, because I feel like I get to know the band a little bit better when they're talking about grandiose politics. I turn off. So and that's just my lyric style. That's just my writing style. So it's a very personal journey, that record, and it there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it.
You can definitely hear it. There's a lot of heart and soul into it.
I really appreciate that,
Chris.
Can you tell us a little bit about the cover art and how that kind of came about?
Oh yeah. So that was months in the working. When so it's done by a chap in Australia called Matt Heed, and he we got sent the the CDs the other day. We're getting the vinyl presses soon, and I opened up the artwork
Those
on the inside. I was
vinyls,
like,
by
oh
the
my
way,
god!
are so sick.
Thank you. When we were getting them pressed out, we were talking to FaceTime. We were like, that blue one. Yeah, that's the one we're gonna. And so there's some really cool like added artwork on the inside of the sleeves of the CD and the vinyl as well. So, and I forgot it was there until we opened it. I was like, oh my god, yes, that work. So the artwork, we wanted to go with a bit of a retro 80s feel in the color scheme. So those kind of neon purples, blues and greens.
Mm-hmm.
And when we gave the title out and I was describing how I wanted it to feel, it was like pure isolation. It was an introspective look on yourself, but in this kind of weird 80s vibe. Like some of the visuals, that's what we wanted to go for. And we tried it with a couple of artists and it just didn't sit right. And then Matt sent across an initial draft, and it was kind of similar, but it had this woman on the front and she looked like she was drowning. I was like, this is really cool. We just need to twist things around a little bit. And then he popped in the woman coming up out of the water, because I said I really like this aspect of drowning. It's like drowning in your own thoughts, it's drowning in your emotions, and then trying to escape it, but knowing that you have to. And then he sent across that, and it was just like, that's the one. And it was like, you know, when it clicks for you, like you saw a couple, you're like, yeah, we could roll with that. But it's very much a reflection on that person introspectively looking at themselves and trying to escape it, but whilst also drowning in their own thoughts and emotions whilst on the way out. So it's got layers of meaning and things like that. But there's an added one on the inside cover as well, which I completely forgot about, and it's great. It's really, really cool.
I can't wait to get my hands on that and see that.
Yeah, well,
this might be one of the first albums, at least in recent times, that I'm gonna get. I'm hoping, just to make it worth it with shipping costs and everything, I'm probably gonna get the CD and the vinyl.
Love it. I saw your collection posted online earlier, Chris.
Oh my God.
Absolutely blown away. The categorization was on a level I've never seen anything like it. Like I was reading, it was like A is face down, B is the vinyl collection here, and I was like, oh wow. Fair play to you.
Thank you.
For those that don't know, Chris just finished his entire face down physical release collection. Meaning he has at least one physical CD or album of every single release in Face Down Records history.
What's your
except for the digital only ones, which I have. But you know what was funny? My wife Fiona, she was like, we had them all laid out on the carpet. I was taking the photos yesterday, and she's like, "So what's your favorite one?" And she's like, I'm like, I don't know. I can't pick. She's like, you gotta prepare. Somebody's gonna ask you.
Yeah, here it is. The killer got the day afterwards. Oh, I should have prepared.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I can name like one, but I know at least in the top 5 or 10 or whatever would probably have to be like Breaker by For Today, Into the Sea by Atlas, Behold by My Epic, probably Sons of Thunder by Sleeping Giant. Like, I don't know. There's so many I could put in there that it's so hard to name, but I know those are like among my favorites. They just hold so much more personal meaning to me for like when I was getting into metal was like For Today, like Breaker. Like that was one of the albums that was like, I'm a metalhead now.
Yeah. You just
got this album. Like,
there's always that one record that gets you into it, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, what was your gateway record into metal?
So let me tell you what my first album was first, because I guarantee you, Destiny's Child Survivor.
Oh, nice.
And then I was like, oh, I need to course correct here, and I got quite into like Sum 41 and stuff like that. But the first metal record I got was Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. But that was obviously
that was mine too.
You can't go wrong with it. You can't go wrong with it. But obviously that's still a little bit light, and it was actually it was Ascendancy by Trivium that drove a spear through me and was like, no, this is the direction that you need to go in. So I remember it was Paul Harder on the strings of Your Martyr, and I'd listened to it on like my school PC with like tiny little earbuds, and I was like, what? And I was the only kid who listened to metal in my school. I used to try and hide it because I was like ostracized for it. So it was a great record. But those were the Destiny's Child to Linkin Park to Trivium. So not
there
bad.
you go.
Yeah, you can see it's a very clear route.
That's cool.
What are some of your favorites from Face Down? Since
you already
you've
asked
been into
Chris.
Face Down for a while. I'm coming back with this.
Do you know what? I'm like you. I'm gonna get it up because I don't want to get the name wrong of it. I want to make sure it's in the right order. It's Calloused by Gideon.
Oh, that's
that makes sense.
It is raw. It's very so raw, and I don't know what. Like I just hands out that it's just an incredible record. I think that it has influenced me on more levels than I care to comment on. So that definitely kind of sits at the top there, and I think Eternal by War of Ages as well as another ripper. So,
it's a classic.
Yeah,
that was up there as well.
Great.
Yeah,
it's funny when you mentioned Gideon earlier. I was like, yes, I was right, because my wife and we listened to the album together for the first time, and the entire time I'm like, who does this sound like? Obviously, it has different influences from different metalcore bands, but I'm like, there's a band that it sounds like directly influenced it, and I can't put my name on it. And when you said Gideon, it clicked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Gideon.
Yeah,
and it has this like Gideon like melodic hardcore, but like metalcore like mashup style to it.
Yeah,
and it's so good. But you guys like refined it with almost like correct me if these aren't bands that influenced you, but I feel like I hear definitely some Fit for a King, some Polaris, and even Currents. I mean, you guys got Brian on it.
Yeah. So you can draw, like, you can look at songs and say which ones influenced it. So, for example, A Place Where Your Hope Dies is very Currents. It's very kind of influenced in that. Lovecraft is very Gideon. It's that kind of stomping, da-da-dun, da-dun, like really kind of hardcore. As you say, Fit for a King, I'd definitely say Punishing probably sits in that Fit for a King kind of big, thumpy riffing, and then kind of like a large chorus. And then there's a couple of British bands actually heavy influence on us. While She Sleeps. And,
nice.
Yeah. And who else has kind of had it? Being as an Ocean, who are a Canadian band, actually have a mega influence on me. So, I think their lyric style is the way Joel writes is just incredible. So, he has a very heavy influence on us. So, you're not far off when you're like, these are the bands that have influenced the record. But what's really nice is that nobody has directly said, you sound like this band, and it's like I can hear elements of it, which is like, oh, that's perfect. That means we're drawing in
when you have your uniqueness.
Somebody commented on Punishing the other day and said, oh, you sound like Sleeping Giant mixed with Blessed by a Broken Heart. And have you ever heard Blessed by a Broken Heart?
Yeah.
They are 80s
Interesting.
synth metalcore. And I was like, you're entitled to your opinion, man, but I do not see it. So
I think he meant it as a compliment, probably.
I love Blessed
I think
by
I
Broken
saw
Heart.
that comment too.
Yeah.
That's funny. I was thinking, is Peacekeepers influenced by Polaris at all? I definitely hear
exactly.
That breakdown kind of sounds like it was taken or like influenced by Polaris.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. So everyone's got their own bits and bobs that they kind of draw in left, right, and center, but that's a very Polaris breakdown with the gaps and the kind of like just
I
the
love
bar
Polaris.
chords. Yeah, they're incredible bands. So
good.
yeah, it's great for people to see that and go, oh, I can see that bit has been influenced by that. Or it's not like every band at the moment is coming out who sounds like Architects did, the last 3 albums ago, and everyone's kind of starting to get that guitar tone, and I'm like, I know that guitar tone. You sound very similar to Architects. So yeah, great fun so far.
They're British too, right?
Yeah. They're from Southampton, which is
they're like
2 hours from me.
They're like probably the biggest like British metalcore band ever, right?
Bring Me the Horizon.
Is Bring Me the Horizon British?
Yeah. They're from Sheffield.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of them, so I never got into them.
Hey, we're all learning something. I didn't realize being as an ocean is Canadian.
Yeah, I believe I believe they're Canadian. And the singer Mike is actually from Manchester in the UK. And the rest of the band are from Canada. So yeah,
cool.
I get quite geeky when I like a band. I'm like, I'm gonna research where you're from, not in a creepy way, but in like a way that I'm like, I'm just really interested.
That's great. I'm that way with Aussie bands. I think Australia. I don't know what is happening down there on that side of the world, but they just keep churning out the best heavy music bands in the scene
for all eternity.
For all eternity, Thornhill.
For all eternity.
Alpha Wolf.
Yeah, I was obsessed with Thornhill's record, The Dot Pool. I cannot even begin to tell you how good that record is. Make Them Suffer is another one. Yeah, it's growing on me. It's very different.
I really like it a lot.
Okay,
I really like it.
Yeah, I was obsessed with them for quite a while. And then Casanova came out, and it jarred me. And I was like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And that's not a bad thing. It just means I've got to get used to it because I've got a lot of respect for them. So I need to give it a couple more whirls. But I think the band that I'm really into at the moment is Void of Vision. Yeah, and they're raw, really, really raw. So
they're pretty heavy.
Yeah, very, very heavy band. So yeah, Australia killing it, absolutely killing it. Just pumping out that Aussie metalcore. Loving it.
That's great. Do you want to, real quick, I know we're almost out of time, do you want to just give maybe a 2-3 minute, if you can, like biography of the band?
Yeah, sure. So we started probably back in 2014, 2015, might be 2015, where we just kind of met online. I did a couple of vocal covers of like As I Lay Dying and a British band called Heart of a Coward. Like terrible. Like if they leaked out online now, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, is that him?" And got contacted by Jack, who's the primary songwriter in Confessions, and we met up and I auditioned for the band, and they were like, "We're looking for a singer. We haven't got any." We weren't a band before. They'd been in a couple of bands. They were just starting this new one, and came in, did a cover of a While She Sleeps song. Everyone was like, "Cool." They played me some original material, and I was like, "Oh, I'm really vibing with this." And I'd been for a number of auditions for other bands that I hadn't really enjoyed the music of, and I just clicked with them. And from there, they were like, "Let's do this, and we'll kind of build up from here." And I was like, they were a 4-piece at the time, so Jack, myself, Tony, and our original drummer. And then I was like, I think we need another guitarist. So I dragged one of my friends from home, kicking and screaming, who's like, "Oh, I want to be in a band, but I don't want to do anything. So I don't want to put in the hard work." So he came along, and we did a little release, and kind of like toured around a little bit around the UK. Didn't really know what we were doing, and then the guitarist and the drummer left. And we then got in Seb and our old guitarist Dom, and we wrote Illuminate, and that was like, right, this is Confessions, and that came out in 2017, and it was like the first kind of two years were a bit of like finding our feet. A lot of bands kind of mess around for a little bit, change their name, and then do a release. We just really loved the name, and we just went, right, we're going to stick with this, and we're going to drive forward. And we released Illuminate in 2017 and toured, got so many opportunities to tour all the way through Europe, all the way through Russia, Eastern Europe. I think we did like 32 or 36 countries in the space of about 2.5 years. We were really, really busy, and we signed to a label out in Lithuania. And that's when we then went, right, let's get on it. Let's write an album, because that's what you do as a band. And got in the studio, dropped in Guided, and sat on it for ages because we didn't know what to do. We were so DIY, and everything had gone from selling CDs to digital. And it's like, well, how do you build an online following? Like, what do you do? Trying to reach. We had no real management, and we just kind of like started reaching out. Got hooked up with a manager, obviously started the initial conversations with Facedown then, and then released Guided, and then COVID hit, and then we did the little EP in lockdown. I think we've gone, I think we in 2018 or 2019 we did something like 110 shows, something like that in the year. So like a third of the year we were in the back of a van, and then we've done 4 in the last 2 years because of lockdowns. So it's killing us at the moment. And then obviously up until where we are now, which is currently releasing Punishing Myself Before God Does on Facedown, which comes out on the 16th of September. So short, that's condensed. You know, a lot of things have happened in the time, but you know, we've toured, we've been about, we've been given some crazy opportunities, and this is the next step for us, and we're incredibly excited to get the record out and in front of people. And I'm really stoked that you guys enjoy it, and like you said, it's a breath of fresh air. So I'm really humbled by what you've got to say about it.
Absolutely, I can't wait to hear what the rest of the, especially the Facedown community here thinks.
Oh, they're gonna love it.
Everybody in general, I think it's gonna be a great record to come out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Real quick before we let you go, I just want to ask, so someone who hasn't heard the band before and who is going to listen to this record when it comes out, what is one thing you want them to take away from it?
It's emotion encapsulated in raw, aggressive energy and sound. And it's a channel of, you know, our inner thoughts, and it just there with your heart on your sleeve, with the world in front of you. And that's kind of where I'd leave it.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for having.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, that's fine, guys.
This has been great.
I'll pop you up on the confessions.
I'd love to come out again sometime.
So smooth. You've got to keep that in. Do not edit that out. Thanks for having us, Steve.
Chris has edited too many podcasts lately.
That was an ongoing joke, though, is that we would always have the people that we're interviewing ask questions and they take over the interview. Not that you did that, but
Chris just gave you control.
I know I talk. The problem is I know I talk a lot. It's like
it's
rein
good.
it back in again. But I tell you what, we've laughed and we've smiled, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me, because it's your podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for this episode of the KingdomCore podcast. Once again, a huge shout out to Steven for coming on. Guys, we cannot wait for you to hear this new release from Confessions of a Traitor. Go over to facedownrecords.com and you can go pre-order some merch, pre-order the album, show these dudes some support. Go stream and listen to their new music. They have 3 singles out currently, and as Steven hinted, there's some more on the way shortly. Once again, we would love to remind you guys to go leave a review on Apple Music, rate the podcast on Spotify or wherever else you listen. It's so great to have your support that way. And speaking of great support, it's time for a special shout out to our Patreon supporters. We welcome a new core giver this week, and that is Frankie Blocker. Thank you so much for joining in at this level. We also have Anthony Kuchma, Tiffany Cadenhead, Aaron Peter, and Jonathan Lyman. And a huge special shout out to the Dead Pedal Coffee Company for continuing their support from this podcast. They have been our biggest financial supporter, and we want to give them some extra support. So we'll end off the podcast with a little bit of a trailer. We've shown this on the podcast before, but we want to show this again. Here is a little bit of a teaser for Dead Pedal Coffee Company.
Are you still cheating yourself every morning with stale store-bought coffee? How about you try something a little more fresh? Go to deadpedalcoffee.com and get your fresh roasted fuel delivered straight to your door. You order, we roast, then we ship. Kickstart your day with a fresh cup of coffee from the South. It ain't just coffee, it's a lifestyle.
How do you say your last name? I'm just curious.
Oh,
MacConville?
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
MacConville.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
MacConville.
cool.
Yeah. Normally people,
Cool.
I've been called McGonagall.
Mick.
I'm like, I'm not in Harry Potter, mate. I know I'm British, but I'm not. There's no G there, mate. And there's there's a V, and yeah. So
I wanted to say something like, forget about being the goat. It's the time of the coat.
No.
So that's why I waited. I did say it.